have our CEO on.
We have our
today.
CEO on.
Kevin Rodman, and
Yeah.
he's brought ABL to where we are today. He's got a crazy life.
That it's all connected to me being born in the front seat of a car. I've said it 10 times already. You got to make great loans. All of our offices are set up like trading floors because we want information shared. There's a lot of risk involved in building a house. There's also a lot of reward for doing something important, flying America with renovated houses and new homes, and you got to get it right.
So, kick it off, please.
Hello, everybody. This is episode 3 of Calculated Interest. I am one of your hosts. My name is Matthew Borba. I am the head of asset management, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Should I talk like a robot too? Alyssa Antoci.
You thought I talked to you?
No, I'm not criticizing. And I am head of shared services.
Head
This
of
is too bad.
No, this is great. We're thrilled to have you back today. We're thrilled to have you back today to discuss our episode.
I feel like the awkward thing's my thing. Why are you trying to steal my thing?
No, I don't know. I wasn't trying to be. Okay. I'm ready now.
Okay, this is Calculated Interest. We're a real estate podcast for real estate investors. Brought to you by ABL.
Asset-based lending.
That's correct. Literally what we do. And
We lend assets based on lending.
could not have said it better myself.
Thank you.
Could have said it better myself. Are you so the holidays are coming up?
Holidays are coming up. I'm responsible for getting the soda this year. I'm not allowed to cook anything.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not even beer and wine. You just Matt,
water,
you could get the soda.
water, Pepsi, and Fanta.
No diet?
No, we're not concerned about that in our household.
Oh,
We
wow.
believe welcome the sugars and see what happens afterwards.
That's so surprising. Aren't you like handing out recipes to ABL people on how to get clean?
I do. Yeah, I'm concerned in health in the other ways. That's why I've recently, between this episode and the last, you might notice I'm wearing glasses. I've actually had LASIK eye surgery.
You got LASIK eye surgery?
I had LASIK eye surgery.
This recently?
Between
Please tell me the details of
2
that.
days ago, I got LASIK eye surgery.
And why would you get glasses?
They said you have 20/20 vision. You don't need LASIK eye surgery.
Okay.
And then I said, if I really want to envision what this podcast is really about, I need to see beyond
I
my
see.
own limitations.
I see. You can see into the future now.
If I want to see the big picture,
Yeah.
it's not just for us.
No,
This isn't about us, actually.
it never was.
This is about the people. And if I want to help them, I need to be able to see what's coming.
So now, did you have to sacrifice maybe seeing what's actually in front of us?
I have mild to severe headaches. And I get a little dizzy here and
Okay.
there, but I think ultimately that culminates, we're a company, we wear a lot of glasses.
Gotcha. So those cue cards, just throw them out because
I
you
don't-
can't see a thing.
I don't need any of
You
them.
don't need
I don't need any of those, especially not when we're talking about today's topic and
Yeah.
talking about what leadership means to me and you.
I'm actually really excited for today.
Me too.
I would say this is, I don't want to be like, I think we've been like building up to this. Although I was going to say like we had, what is the sea legs thing?
We had our sea legs taken out.
That's the exact phrase. I feel, I feel like we've gotten a hang of this.
Yeah, we have. Like, it feels natural now. I used to get a little nervous and throw up before the episodes, but now we're kind of just, just like, zigging and zagging out here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that ailment. I didn't know that you were going through that.
I love talking about business.
Okay. Yeah. So this is actually a really good episode. Not actually we have our CEO on.
We have our
today.
CEO on.
Kevin Rodman.
He's-
Very impressive.
Yeah, he's the reason I got LASIK.
What?
Remember I said everything I said before? Disregard all of that.
Oh.
I saw him wearing glasses and I thought, that guy's got it figured out.
I severely think you don't know what LASIK is.
No, I do, and I'm not bald yet, but I thought that let me get as close as possible for more of an aerodynamic.
Oh, your haircut was for this episode.
He's like a father figure to all of us.
Mm.
I feel like, especially to me. My dad is still around, and he's great, but like he's like another dad that
Wow.
I have who's taught me everything that I know in this business.
Me too, honestly. He's been a wonderful mentor. I don't know about the daddy issue thing that you have. He's been a great professional mentor to me. And
He has. Yeah.
no, but really, he's got like an impressive
It could also be impressive.
experience, and
Yeah.
he's brought ABL to where we are today. And I've heard a lot of his life stories, and they're all super interesting. I don't know if we'll have time for all of them, but he's got a crazy life, and I'm excited to learn about it.
Yeah, he's caught me by the water cooler a couple times, and and I'm like,
Wow,
yeah.
that's great.
It's like when you think of culture, you think of it like a bathtub, like full of water, right? And then it starts from the top and it spills out to the bottom, almost like a Reaganomics. But here we call it Rodmanomics. And I feel like that's what's kind of built us to have successful teams, to inspire communication between the departments, and also problem solve and get better technology implemented this year, inspire people to come out of their own shells. It all comes, I didn't see that table there. It all comes from the top.
Wow, that is such a creative way to describe culture.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you ever decide to give up asset management, we could use your help on the marketing team to be so creative with our copy.
It's either marketing or it's local law. I'm sorry, not local law. I'd run for local office because I think I have what it takes and I have the right gestures.
What would be like, what office?
Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor of.
Whatever will take me.
Okay.
And I'd say, you know,
I think you have some
you
opportunities.
just make some platitudes and you say things like, together we got synergy and we'll come out on top. People love that.
Yeah.
That's my morning
I would
meeting with
vote
my
for
team.
you. Maybe if you had like a really small town, population 3.
Rural.
No, I think you could do it. I'd vote for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely have the charisma, I
Yeah.
think, to get
And
me
that's
in the door.
98%.
That's all of it.
Yeah, it's 100%.
And then you let the lackeys kind of come in, the bureaucracy to fill in the rest.
Is this your
This is my segue when I do go into politics.
we did miss a major component, is like, what's some credibility around our wonderful
We did?
ABL?
Oh, you want to tell them?
I do, because you could, maybe if you could read no, it's not the cue card. We did 3.3 billion funded, 7,000 projects,
Get out.
15 years in business.
15.
We're on publications like Scotsman's Guide, Media, National Mortgage Professional,
Okay.
Housing Wire, just to name a few.
All
Just to name a
right.
few. Winning awards. Yeah, so pretty great company we have here. And we did, I know this is kind of long, I don't know if we can cut some stuff. We did just do an amazing connectivity week last week.
I was there. You were there too.
I was there. It was
Everyone
incredible.
was there.
We were partying, we were learning.
Yeah.
We had people in steam rooms
Yeah.
because we had to sweat out all the
the old to bring in all the new.
yeah, that's a core philosophy of ours. Just yep.
When I think the new year,
Mhm.
I think synergy, right?
Are you pitching your
When
mayoral?
When I think what we've made here at ABL and what Kevin's made, I think togetherness. And
I
think
do.
that's what we got out of connectivity, and I think that's what you're gonna see today.
You talking to the camera so much more than me.
Don't be shy. They can't talk back to us. We can look right at them.
That's true. It's a little scary.
We're untouchable
Stealing my soul,
until
I think.
the comments come.
That's true.
Oy.
I do think it was a beautiful thing. Met so many amazing people, saw how impactful our company was. Pretty incredible. And to speak to your culture bathtub piece, it really showed, what Kevin has built. And so really excited to talk about it with him today. All right. Shall we get started? I think we just majorly introduced you. I am so curious of your thoughts on the intro.
I was hyping
Please.
you up like you wouldn't believe.
Please give us feedback. But in our opinion, the most exciting episode yet. And we are excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. And I didn't hear the intro. So was I here for that?
You weren't here for that, but I
Yeah.
compared you to a father figure to me.
You did.
I heard Ronald Reagan.
You also, Ronald Reagan is part of that as well. As a leader, as an inspiration.
Well, I was young when he was president, but I had an opportunity to vote back then, and he was certainly an impactful president.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He
Watching.
was, hear ye, right?
Okay. Well, we can dive right in. We have a bunch of questions for you. These are just things to kind of move the conversation forward. But really, to start, we want to learn all about your early influences. So I'll just give you a first question. If that sounds good. We're going in.
Let's go for it.
All right. So when you were growing up, what did you imagine your career would look like?
I wanted to be a veterinarian,
Didn't expect that.
and I loved animals. And then when I was 13, I became allergic to animals,
Damn.
and that derailed my career aspirations to be that. And so then I really ended up being directionless until I realized at an early age that private money lending was my future.
Like all animals, like most animals.
All animals with hair. Yeah.
Damn.
And I love dogs. I love them so much.
You're laughing
And-
at such a
and-
sad thing.
So you have no pets right now?
We have no pets.
Oh man.
And if I could, I would have at least 2 dogs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man's best friend.
And my wife would be completely in on that. And but we can't.
Yeah.
We can't. But you know what? It gives us freedom to do a lot of things.
Right.
Like we can go out at night, not worry about the dogs, and travel
Just living young, wild, and free.
completely.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm ball and chained right now with my doggo.
Yeah.
Not us.
Wow.
Can't relate, right, Kev? Not us.
Now,
What
of
is this?
course, everybody else in my family, my brothers, my 2 older brothers, all became doctors. My dad was a doctor. My cousins were doctors. My uncle was a doctor. This is a family. It's a family thing. And so my grandma kept saying, why don't you be a doctor? And I said, well, Grandma, I don't, it's just not for me. I don't like I don't really like getting up and going to the science classes at 6 a.m. and all of that. And so she said, well, then maybe you should be a dentist.
It's kind of adjacent though, no? Kind
Yeah,
of similar.
kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. And that was when I was already a big success on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I said, Grandma, I have a great job. I work for Morgan Stanley, and I'm a partner there. And actually, my title is managing director. It's MD, same as my dad and brothers. But she still thought I should be a dentist.
She's like, but are you
Damn.
sure not teeth?
Yeah.
You're like, I think
She
I'm
thought
okay.
it was more stable.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of which, every great career has a story. Can you share yours and any key experiences that helped shape you today?
Sure. So I was really fortunate in that when I went to college, I had a favorite professor who transferred from my college undergraduate, which was Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's a garden spot of New England. And it's not really. And and he went to the University of Pennsylvania and started a new program there that was a partnership between the School of Public and Urban Policy and the Economics Department. And he was just getting started. And I said, hey, I'm from Philadelphia and I'd love to talk to you about it. And I went and spoke with him, and he said, come and join the program. So I sort of got into the University of Pennsylvania for a really rigorous graduate program for Masters of Science through the back door that today probably doesn't exist. And I learned more in those 2 years at UPenn than I learned the rest of all of my other education. It really set me up for success when I became an economics consultant for a year, and but then I ended up for landing a job at Morgan Stanley when it was a private company with less than 3,000 people. And I landed there in 1984 when personal computers were not a thing. And I actually was using one at that point. It was very early for anyone to have one, and I had some skills, technical skills, and it served me really well. And as I look back on my 25 years, at Morgan Stanley, I could say that you should always be ready for the unexpected. I didn't go in there with a plan. In fact, when I got the opportunity to interview there, a guy from the firm in which I was working left. We were in Washington D.C. Left to go to work for a Wall Street firm, and I'd never heard of Wall Street.
Mm.
And I called him up and I said, "How? What is this? How'd you get this job?" He said, "I used a headhunter." I said, "What's a headhunter?" And he said, he introduced me to this person, and she said, "Send me your resume." I called her up on the phone, and back then I think we had push button phones, and there's no cell phones. And I typed up my resume. There's no like word processing, and sent her my resume. And she said, "I'd like you to come up and interview at Morgan Stanley for their strategic planning department." And I said, "What's Morgan Stanley? I never heard of that." And so came up 13 interviews in a day and got a job offer
13 in a day.
in a day.
Wow.
Who were
They-
you meeting with over the course of that day?
Everyone in this strategic planning department, and then a whole bunch of other people. It was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
When I came on here, I
Wow.
had 2. And I thought, I was like, wow, this is quite a doozy.
Yeah, I
Couldn't
know.
even
and
imagine 13.
It's been a mistake ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have put you
Kind of
through 8.
squeaked through there. Woo.
Yeah, you did. It was like me
We-
getting into grad school. Squeaked right in through the
Thank
back
God
door.
before we tightened up, right?
Yeah. So I went in this strategic planning department, and a year later, because of my technical skills, I ended up on the trading floor. And at first, they put me in this esoteric sales group, and I found that I really didn't love sales, that I wanted to be more in control of my destiny. And then a few really fortuitous things happened, and I ended up on the trading desk in bonds. And I can tell you that multiple times in my career during Morgan Stanley and ever since has been, you got to put yourself out there. That is the number one rule. You have to put yourself out there. And what I mean by that is you have to always view every interaction with another person as a potentially career changing event. You've got to take everything in. You have to be a great listener. You have to have you have to be able to walk up to people and introduce yourself and ask them what they do and ask them questions. Be an incredible listener. Be a sponge. Learn from them. And I was incredibly fortunate to have joined the financial services industry when it was somewhat in its infancy. Sales and trading had just begun. And what was driving it is my generation, the baby boomers, were hitting their peak saving years. And firms like Fidelity and Dreyfus and T. Rowe Price were all just getting started. Maybe they started in the mid 70s. And it's because the money wasn't there yet. But then my generation started saving money, and all this money had to be invested. And suddenly there was an explosion of financial services, just like technology is exploding for the last 20 years. It was financial services back then. The big deal was getting on Wall Street. And I sort of just stumbled into it. And um, not many people are fortunate enough to join a company when it's got 3,000 people and have a 25-year run and leave when it's got 65,000 people. If you think about the growth rate.
It's wild.
And I was fortunate enough to join Morgan Stanley when it was private, with the third generation of partners. There were probably 50 partners. They owned the company when I got there, and they had the culture of the founders. And I took that culture with me my whole career, and it's a really was a great lesson for me. And I have always said to all my, my seat now as CEO of ABL and other leadership positions I've had is the reason there are reasons firms like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs survived and thrived through multiple cycles, and other firms failed. And it all gets back to culture and as the beginning point. Culture establishes everything, and culture, the CEO and the leadership of a company are 100% accountable for culture. Comes from them.
That perfectly ties to my bathtub analogy that you will hear in the intro. It actually,
Okay.
it perfectly ties.
Yeah.
But I think that you embody that really well. Alyssa and I were talking about it before you came in, that you act that way and you also practice what you preach
Yeah.
because you're looking at things from a 50,000-foot view, trying to keep the
Mhm.
company going, new innovations, new expansions, but you also have a pretty firm grasp on what everyone's doing throughout the day because you check in and you care. You'll have a conversation with someone in IT and ask them what their project is. You're constantly working with people on my team, asking what they're working on,
Yeah.
how their experience has been. So you're always kind of reaching across the aisle in that sense. And I think it's something that I'm myself and Alyssa and other managers here do as well. It's like it encourage us to do the same and also put our teams in opportunities where they're communicating with other people. So it's not so siloed off. So I think, working in other companies prior to this, that it's made it easier and kind of emboldened me, emboldened us to kind of spread that around. And that's why the culture is as strong as it is here,
Yeah.
is because it does start from the top down. You do it every single day. So we kind of do the same thing on our end.
Yeah. One of the main things that caused very large Wall Street firms to fail over the last 30 years is silos, where they had superstars in divisions that got to do whatever they wanted to do, basically, and took on too much risk. And then a financial crisis comes and those firms go down. And so, what I learned through my career is there can be no silos
Right.
and there can be no superstars who get special treatment over everybody else. And I also learned that, and from really great leaders at Morgan Stanley, although this is really about ABL, not Morgan Stanley, this conversation.
This is all about you. So take it whatever direction
Yeah,
you want to go.
exactly.
That's my favorite subject.
I know.
um, that's not true. My wife is.
That is true.
Yeah, is. Um, I also learned that the, that even it's incredibly impactful to have a CEO who shows care for the employees, that to have a CEO who listens and who lets each employee know that they matter. And I try to live that in my seat.
Yeah. And anecdotally, I mean, like again, I say we both see that. I hear from my team as well, right? Just kind of we see it from you. It goes directly to my boss, Adam Cohen,
Mhm.
to myself and everyone else. We try to treat everyone like they're going through their own individual things, their own individual lives, right? Things pop up. People need accommodations. People are working through unique scenarios. So it's the understanding behind, why they made the decision that they did or why they need to, have some grace. I think that keeps people happy and makes people want to stay. And that's why people, have left other firms, have come here and have told me, like, hey, I had this opportunity there, XYZ, but I'd much rather be here because I like the people that I work with. I
Yeah,
feel heard and I feel valued here.
yeah. We hired somebody once, and I was speaking with her, and she said, I can't believe I'm in the home office." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, I worked for 3 years at my previous firm, and I was never invited to the home office." And core to our culture is, even though it costs money, is we hire people, we bring them in.
Right.
And as you know, I've always believed in the office. And I know there are a lot of other firms, not just in our industry, but in many other industries right now that have gone completely remote. And I think there'll be books written on it one day that it's less efficient than being in the office. And I I think, particularly for young people, you know, we're running a firm where culture really matters. And I just don't know how to teach a young person culture if they're working from home. I don't get it. They, they don't they don't make connections. They don't learn proper behavior. Um, they don't they get lost in the shuffle. And that's just not young people. I think it's just about everybody.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I'm old school, but I really believe in quality FaceTime.
I mean, that's definitely like feedback we get too when folks come in because we also have like our remote employees come in quarterly and they often say like what a different experience is. And although some people work better remote in their perspective and some, you know, don't, I think like everyone can agree that the culture that we have at ABL, when you come here, you really can feel it, which is pretty amazing. I guess like from an ABL perspective, your journey in ABL. Can you share a little bit about, starting at ABL, a little bit about the fun, but ultimately like, what that journey looked like?
Yeah, love to. So I had two partners who really started the firm, Paul Ullman and Dan Layden, and they're good friends to this day. They retired and moved on to do great things. And we all came from big jobs on Wall Street. Paul was Paul was a trader who started out at Solomon Brothers, where the mortgage industry really began. And he was fortunate enough to work with Lou Ranieri, who created securitizations and went on to create extraordinary companies. And Paul created a hedge fund that was very successful. And he hired Dan, who was 20 years as a controller, or basically senior, like a CFO of a mortgage division at a major firm. And so the three of us were serious Wall Street mortgage professionals. And Dan and Paul and I actually started the idea Paul started the idea in 2010. I meant to say I started talking about the idea with Paul. But he really started it. He was flipping homes with his wife, and in 2010, there were so many opportunities to buy homes cheaply, and he had builders coming to him saying, "You know where I can get money to flip? I have so many houses." And he and his wife realized that they could lend money more easily than flip a house. So Paul and I went to a couple of hard money conferences in California, and we started talking about how to build a business. I wasn't ready to do a startup. Paul called his former CFO, Dan. They started the company. I invested with them early, but they really built early ABL. And they rented a third floor walk up in a 100-year-old building in Hoboken, and 1,000 square feet. And they stared at each other for 6 months trying to figure out how to get the phone to ring. And it started, and I went off and did some things in the mortgage industry for 3 or 4 years, and then joined them in 2014. And maybe I was the sixth person, and we we went to RIAs, real estate association meetups. We met investors. We were based in New Jersey, and there was a lot of opportunity to buy properties inexpensively in New Jersey. And we just started meeting people and getting our name out there. And our name was a good name. And my partner Paul thought of it, asset-based lending. That itself is great value. Our name, it's a good one for this industry because it's what we do. That's how Paul thinks. Um, he's very good with his words in terms of stating what he's doing. And and so the three of us made a great team. Paul and I both came from the risk side. I had a lot of experience in loan risk management. Paul had a lot of experience in bonds, and Dan had a lot of experience in infrastructure and cash control and accounting and just controlling the middle and back office. And But the one thing I learned from the crash was that I built my career as a trader, and every day I went home really having a good understanding of how much risk I was taking and being comfortable with it. Side note, as you know, everybody in my family's doctors. My brother was running intensive care units. He came to visit me on the trading floor one day, and he said, I don't know how you go home with these multi-billion-dollar positions." And I said, "Well, Dave, I don't know how you go home with 25 beds of people in an intensive care unit." And he said, "I've been a doctor for over 20 years, and this is what I've studied, trained for, and this is my life, is running intensive care units. I make decisions, and most people live and some die." And I said, "Well, that's kind of what I do on the trading desk. I make decisions, and hopefully most trades win and some die."
Potato,
And
potato.
yeah, um and so what happened is as we got bigger and bigger at Morgan Stanley and the mortgage division grew, I ended up being CEO of two or three different entities at Morgan Stanley with hundreds or over 1,000 employees. And I no longer understood the risk I was taking going home at night. It's not that I didn't understand it. That's the wrong word. It's that I didn't get a report in front of me that
Mm.
quantified everything. So I became multiple steps removed from really having a pulse on it. And instead, my job was to build and grow and manage. And the crash was a really difficult time to go through, especially running one of the biggest mortgage desks, in the industry. And what I decided is I wanted to get back to basics. That's all I wanted to do. So Paul, Dan, and I threw in a lot of our own personal capital into the company to start it. And all I wanted to do was underwrite loans. I wanted to get back to basics and understand my risk at the most granular level. So the three of us were the only underwriters. That's how we built the firm. We were on the phone talking to borrowers all day long. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I underwrote a lot of loans and probably closed or underwrote over 500 million with hardly any losses. And I'm proud of that. And and the phone then started ringing more and more as our reputation got out there. And we were doing more things to get our name out there. I don't remember exactly what. None of it was very high tech. We built a website eventually and got a fair amount of traffic from that. And we realized that 8 out of 10 calls we were saying no. And so Dan, Paul, and I were working really long days, saying no most of the time on the phone. So we looked at each other. We said, we got to hire a salesperson to say no. But what's interesting is that series of decisions established the culture of the firm that still exists today, which is everybody is a risk manager. Everybody in the company has a hand in managing our risk, and our mission is to make good loans. We hired salespeople and we trained them in how we think about loans and our guidelines. And their job was to ask a borrower a series of questions and get to know as fast as possible, and then get to the next phone call or next lead so they could submit a really good loan. And Paul, Dan, and I could underwrite it and say yes. And so, even to this day, that's still how we run the company. And we run it somewhat differently from every other company in the industry, from what I'm told, which is I'm sure every other firm has great salespeople too. We have great salespeople and they understand our guidelines. When we hire salespeople, they go through a rigorous training process and they have to actually submit loans through something called the scenario desk. And we created that in the last year or two because we realized that as we got bigger, we had lost that connection between sales and underwriting that existed when we built the company in one room. Now we're spread across 42 states with with remote salespeople. We still have the same setup of all of our offices are set up like trading floors because we want information shared. And if there are offices, they're glass, which is, there's no closed doors. And um, so we still want our loan officers to be sitting near our underwriters so they can hear each other talk and can have an open dialogue about what makes sense and learn from each other. And so, but what we realized a few years ago is we had a secret sauce in the beginning because we produced a crew of superstar salespeople. Happy to say most of them are still with us, and the ones that aren't are superstars at other companies. And because we understood how to think about a loan and what makes a good loan. And so what we created at ABL a few years ago was a thing called the scenario desk. And so we hire a new salesperson, even if they have experience, they have to go through the scenario desk, which is not a direct loan submission. It's a more detailed submission. And the whole idea is our senior underwriters look at the submission, and if there's anything about it that could be improved, they have a conversation with the salesperson. It's educational. It's let's talk about this loan and what you could have done to make it a better submission. And or if it's a dead loan, why is this loan dead? And what we want to get to within 3 months of having a salesperson in our company is having that person submitting great loans at least 90% of the time. The 10% is them, the salesperson, pushing the edge,
Right.
which is what they're supposed to do. But I'd rather a salesperson says no. Hopefully, we're producing great leads. ABL is a great lead producing firm. Hopefully 60-70% of the leads are great. That's a very high percentage. It's probably much lower than that. But say no as fast as possible. Ask the right questions, move on, get to the next loan, submit a great loan so our underwriters can approve at least 85% of the loans that are submitted to underwriting.
That's so consistent. Like when I first started with ABL as a recruiter, that was one of the first things you said to me, and what I said on the phone for every single hire. And it's maintained consistency, and it is how we hire all of our people, which I do feel like is refreshing. At least when I was recruiting, it felt refreshing to folks to hear, and I think it's why ultimately we have a low risk like portfolio, for lack of better words.
Yeah, our losses are still very low,
Right.
and we're proud of that. And we take our lumps now and then, but with the default interest we earn and other fees we earn, we're in the black when it comes to losses. And that's ABL just completed its third securitization. It was oversubscribed 5 times, and it's because the industry knows that we make good loans and we manage them well.
I think your question's next.
Yeah. I have a question that actually came up not on the cue card, but you kind of inspired me to think about it. Just, as a company's trying to grow, one like ABL or any other kind of company that's like similar in the industry, when you're looking at scale and growth, right? Because obviously you have to take risk when you're balancing that risk versus reward. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you could expand on it, maybe even a little bit more. When we're bringing in new LOs, like you said, maybe from other companies, whether they're, or even just, young talent that's coming in, how do you kind of keep that consistency and make sure that they're working, the ABL way, whether it be retraining them coming from a different firm, or you have someone coming in, like you mentioned, the scenario desk? Because when you're trying to expand, we're trying to get into more territories, we're trying to bring in, more superstars or train more superstars. How do you kind of balance growth with also keeping the consistency?
That's a great question, and it's not a simple answer. So the first of all, we need, ABL has a great leadership team, and we meet constantly. It's almost like an all-day meeting, frankly, between there's so many mediums in which we communicate that um, not only do we have regular meetings, the leadership team, but there's no barriers to communication, and we all know the mission, and we all understand the business plan, and we know exactly tactically what our goals are, and we also believe in a method of baby steps. Like, okay, what are we going to? Let's try to break this thing down, and if we have to make a change, and that could take 6 months, but how do we accomplish it month by month? But to answer your question, each functional leader, underwriting, sales, technology, asset management, servicing, accounting, every leader of that department is steeped in our culture and doesn't deviate from the message. And the message is always, we're here to make great loans. And let's get to your question about scaling. So scaling, I think, for any company in any industry, particularly when you go from a startup like ABL 15 years ago to now, doing over $1 billion in loans a year, is really hard, super hard. So so first of all, culture. You got to keep the culture pure. And so let's just check the box. Okay. Comes from the top, leadership, the top people in the firm are accountable for it. That's it. You got to do it. Okay. Next, everybody has to agree on the business plan. There could be no daylight between the leadership of the company on what the business plan is. Because then if you don't agree on the business plan, then everyone's, you're going to have leadership taking people down wrong direction.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. Next, we need to figure out, okay, we all agree on the business plan. How are we going to execute? And what are the, where are the pain points that are going to prevent us from executing? So, for instance, there are so many at a company like ABL. So we have great salespeople, and we compared the number of salespeople we had to every other firm in the industry that does more production than us. And we had half as many as the next firm. And it's like, oh, well, maybe that's like, yes, dummy.
Right.
You need more
Maybe we need some more
salespeople,
people.
but
Yeah.
ours were so great. It wasn't. I didn't get that. It wasn't so evident. And so we launched a really fantastic recruiting machine, and it took us a year to make mistakes and figure it out and get the right technology and get the right people and get it right. And now we have a phenomenal group of people who are out there all the time trying to recruit the best people to ABL. So, now I'm really proud to say in the last year, we've doubled the number of salespeople at the company. Um, and uh, one of the things and the next is, you talk about scale, technology. So it's very hard to take a firm from startup 15 years ago when technology was not particularly advanced to top tier firm today when in fact technology has completely changed, and it's moving at light speed right
Hmm.
now. And I like to say, and this is my analogy, and other people can say, I think, Kevin, you're wrong. Um, t- I think mortgage technology was somewhat stuck in amber for 30 years. And over the last 5 years, the amber has melted and now we're moving at light speed. And and I think the way it used to be is you do a major turnover, make a major investment, have this great new system and tweak it at the margin for a long time. And that's just for a firm that's not doing conforming mortgages. In the conforming world, 70% of the companies in the industry are using the same system that one could argue is not evolving quickly enough. Um, in a non-conforming world, it's a lot of bespoke systems. And so we're turning over our systems right now at ABL, and and we're and there are so many advances being made in technology. I'm not talking about AI yet.
Hmm.
Um, that the in our industry in private money lending, it's become absolutely clear to me that there are going to be winners and losers. And the winners are going to be the ones that have accessed great capital at a low cost. And they have to have enough capital. For instance, because we're a securitizer, there's probably about 20 firms in our industry that securitize. Securitizations need capital. So you have to have capital. You also have to have inexpensive capital. Then, in order to, so you need that to scale, just because, right, you have to have options. You have to be able to retain loans, which is essentially what a securitization is. You have to be able to sell loans sometimes. You have to be able to warehouse loans. So you need capital for warehousing. Um, and when it comes to technology, the state of technology is has advanced so much that the best technology right now probably can produce a loan 50% less expensively than average,
Makes sense.
the average company. And not only is it possible to do that with a big investment in technology, it's not cheap. Definitely not cheap. You can't just buy it off the shelf. Um, the most important thing is that it creates a better customer experience. And there are a few firms in the industry that actually have proven that recently, that that technology in our industry makes a massive difference and we need it to scale. So capital, incredibly great technology, and then everything has to be focused on the borrower experience because we are in a race right now. And the race has been created by the explosion of volume in the securitization market, which, by the way, in my career, it comes and goes. Right now, for the private lending industry, it's game on. It's record year, 2 years in a row. The rating agencies have gotten involved. That has driven lending costs down. So, where we're headed is is we're going to have winners and not winners. And the winners are going to have this great capital. They're going to have this great technology, which any company with money can build. We haven't seen it particularly off the shelf.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's secret sauce, which is which is obtaining and keeping borrowers and defining and executing what does it mean to offer a borrower a great experience. And by the way, I've said it 10 times already. You got to make great loans. You can't keep borrowers because you're giving them loans that don't make sense. that they'll lose money, we'll lose money. That makes no sense.
Mhm.
So, but that's the race right now. And I think there's going to be big winners in the next few years that are going to get differentiated by capital, technology, people, and processes that are entirely always focused on how do we make a better experience for the borrower? How do you define it? And how do you execute it? I hope that answered your question about scale. I
No,
feel like I went off the reservation.
no,
No.
no.
Yeah.
I think that's it entirely. I think it's we're feeling that all the time. We're taking the appropriate steps to. It's kind of like you mentioned. It almost feels like a tech arms race right now.
It
We're
is.
just trying to get the best systems in place,
Yeah.
get them integrated quickly, and then also make sure you said the biggest thing. It could be easy on our end, but if it's not easy for the borrower, it's dead in the water anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? So it's got to be able to communicate on both sides. Alyssa, if you didn't have a question, I had another one about the past. I was going to take us.
Go
back
for
to.
it. Go for it.
I was taking us back to the disco days and afros and whatnot. And by that, I mean 10 years ago. When you're mentioning right now, you're talking about like the tech arms race and talking about, more inexpensive capital, having more of it on hand. We're seeing that we need that right now. When you were getting into the space, the hard money space about 10, 15 years ago, were the wants and desires to be successful similar? And like you mentioned, right? Like tech wasn't as important then as it is now. So was it really more so just about structure, borrower retention, and policy? Or what was something when you were coming into the space that was kind of a shock to you?
Well, first of all, just to clarify, Matt, I had no hair 10 years ago. The afro was 50 years ago. Okay. Just so you know.
I thought we were there still. I thought we were
No.
boogie nights.
Now your timelines are a little off between my hair retention
Okay.
and the me getting into the hard money business.
I see. I'm a
But-
little dizzy.
But yeah. But so anyway, Paul, Dan, and I wanted to manage our money, and we wanted to build a business where we could manage the money of our friends and family and then maybe make it bigger. We had absolutely no vision whatsoever of we were going to build a company, make it big, sell it to private equity, and that's going to be our game plan. That's how it played out.
Mm.
But it's not at all how we at all thought of what we were going to do. And we literally just wanted to build an asset management business. And being guys that had been in the mortgage industry for over 30 years, now it's been for me 40 years. The idea that you could make a loan yielding almost 15% back then and take no losses for year after year, for everybody who's listening, that never existed, ever. And that's why Wall Street has jumped into our space, because what we have is special. Now yields are much lower. The market's become a lot more efficient, but still losses are minimal across most of the industry. And it's a remarkable thing to this day. And I think it's because after the crash, the banks left this space, and America has, as everyone knows, a housing stock. I think the average age is over 45 years. And despite all the bad press about house sales declining, and it's a tragedy that home ownership has become so unobtainable for so many people. But with all that said, ABL's core philosophy has been there are two driving forces of home ownership and demand, which is the millennials, the biggest generation in history, wanting a home. Most of them, no, not most of them, a lot of them moving to the South. And they all want new homes. And my generation, the baby boomers, downsizing and wanting smaller new homes and also moving south. And it just so happens ABL is based in New Jersey, and we do a huge business in New Jersey.
Mhm.
And we're big all across the Northeast. There's very little available land, and every new house we lend against in the Northeast sells in 30 days. And so so um, we got into new construction really early. We're really glad we did. The banks, having left um, making loans against fix and flips and mostly new construction after 2007, gave us this incredible opportunity to fill a void that needed and still needs filling, despite the declining home sales in the United States. ABL's book has been rock solid at 75% paying off every year for the last 10 years. And it's because we were picking great borrowers, great locations, we and making the right loans. And we happen to be have evolved by accident into a new construction specialist, with about half of our book being new construction. And just shout out to you, Matt. You run asset
Oh my God.
you run asset management for
Little
the
old
company.
me?
The only time you'll
Yeah.
hear
That's
it.
Yeah.
weird. All right.
You run asset management for the company,
I guess.
and you're one of the persons that one of the people that adds the magic of knowing our mission. And frankly, you talk about customer retention. Salesperson talks to a borrower, gets the loan into the system. Our underwriter talks to a borrower. Our processors probably talk to the borrower. We close the loan, and then for the next 9 months to year, it lives in your department.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have asset managers who are constantly in touch with our borrowers. ABL is about high touch. And when we look at the industry, there are a couple of industry leaders who are bigger than ABL. One of them is actually a low touch model, very successful.
Mhm.
And they have the extraordinary technology. Okay. Another one of them is a high touch model, just like ABL. And they also have great tech, but they haven't made nearly as big investment as the other player. So what's interesting to me about our space, besides the fact that there's still thousands of firms in the industry, is that there's two completely different models, both very profitable, very successful. There's even a third model I didn't mention. Those are both direct to consumer, like ABL. We're mostly direct to consumer, about 80%. Um, both of those firms are as well. There's another firm that's 100% wholesale, also extremely successful, also highly tech enabled. And when Paul, Dan, and I started the company, none of that tech existed at all. And so it's just, and the capital wasn't here either. There weren't securitizations. It was hard to find a warehouse line.
Mhm.
So we raised $100 million, through our own money and friends and family, and got a small warehouse line and built a really nice business. And Wall Street discovered our space around 2016, 2017, and started bringing a lot of capital in with warehouse lines and, more importantly, buying loans. And that allowed a whole bunch of companies to exist who, who just existed to sell loans. And I think that hurt the quality of loans in the industry somewhat. And that's not our model.
Mm.
There are companies that exist and do that. But, and the securitizers who can raise inexpensive capital are going to be more competitive than the players in the industry who are forced to sell loans to those players. So at ABL, we're really proud of the fact that we've always been our culture has always been one of a portfolio manager and one of a loan owner. Even though there have been times when we've been a loan seller, we still always, through your department, maintain asset management. We never give that up.
Yep.
never give up the contact with the borrower. This industry, this business is still, uh, in my belief, needs to be a hands-on business because there's a lot of risk involved in building a house, and there's also a lot of reward. We're doing something important. We're supplying America with renovated houses and new homes, and we got to get it right.
Absolutely.
And your people are responsible for that.
That they are.
Well, the comment of people, I think when you quiz me on what's the most important thing that you've taught me, you always say people and follow the money, but people. And, when you're looking for qualities in a leadership team that people are going to follow and trust, what qualities do you look for? What are some things you've learned over the years that are really important in a management team?
Well, the number one, um, okay, we look for smart people. You got to have smart people. That's number one. You got to have people who are hungry and want to work hard. You got to have people that fit your culture. We, you know, People need to take a culture test. We do testing at ABL now. We test everybody before we hire them, and I know several other major firms in the private money lending industry that do the same thing. Um, and it's critical. You got to test, and so um, we've made the mistake of hiring people that don't fit our culture, and every single time they fail. And it's so damaging for the organization to have somebody in a seat um, that that where they've just not gotten the job done because they're a square peg in a round hole. So getting that culture fit is exceptionally uh, exceptionally important. And then there are key things about our culture that that we have to have. And one of them is no matter your level, you have to be able to get in the weeds. No matter, and it's even at my level, right? And if I see something that I think I can make a difference, I will, as you both know, um, I will dive into the weeds and and dig in. And for in terms of my direct leadership team, I expect it from them all the time. And one could argue that's not efficient to have senior people. And I would argue that the converse is doesn't work. It's probably the same at every company. That I've often read about people who end up being leaders at major auto companies in America, and they grew up on the factory floor, and we're the same. So every leader smart. I always say you got to bring your A game every day. Absolutely every day. Bring your brains into the office and help make smart decisions. Um, be be a driver of the firm's strategy and and help people make the right decisions. And all of us, no matter what seat you're in at the company, every day we're faced with making decisions, and you need to make as many right decisions as possible. And everybody makes mistakes. And one of my most important culture pillars is to have the the emotional IQ strong enough that you can look within yourself, recognize a mistake, accept it, and learn from it, and not make that makes mistake again. Make a different mistake the next day. Okay? Because everybody makes mistakes, but try not to make the same mistake. And one of the most important things I've learned over this, my long career is when you have a person in a seat who makes the same mistake over and over, that person stops the organization from moving forward. And if they're a junior person, it just gums up that department and people end up doing workarounds because that person just keeps making the same mistake over. Um, when it's a senior person, the whole organization ceases to move forward. Um, it sounds dramatic, but I've seen it happen. It's true. And people who fail to recognize their mistakes and learn from them need to be rooted out and told to move on. They're not salvageable. And um, they might be. Yeah, they might be if they're young. But not if they're rooted in that. And a lot of times, um, it's scary to own your mistakes. Really scary because it makes you question, like, who am I? Like, how could I have made that mistake? But that's not that's not what matters. What matters is that everybody makes mistakes, and and what matters is the most important thing is in your professional life, in your personal life. What happened? How did it happen? I'm not doing that again. Let's move on.
It's a rare quality. I mean, I shouldn't say rare, but it is a really important quality. I couldn't agree more. Um,
By the way, it took me a long time to figure this out. I was not emotionally aware enough when I started my career on Wall Street to learn from my mistakes. I've It's taken me, I would say it took me about, well, I'm not going to say how many years.
maybe
It's,
since Afro to no.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Disco days.
Disco days.
Disco days.
Oh, I do want a time check if that's okay. Okay, so I can move. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to move to reflection and advice.
I dropped my cards.
Here you go.
Thank you.
I thought you just threw the cards away. You were just so
I was
into
kind of in
this.
the
You're
zone.
like, who needs cards?
I was gonna get too granular, so I
Yeah.
decided.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading me back in.
I love granular.
I was
Go
talking
for
new
it.
construction, how we got into that space. Was it
Yeah.
more to fill a need? But let's just talk about if you were found. I'm being you.
Oh shit. Oh. Well, I
all
can
right.
ask one,
Yeah.
What's a single piece of leadership advice you would give to managers here who want to grow into a senior position?
Figure out how to differentiate yourself. Do you want me to elaborate?
I mean, honestly, I kind of like it. It's like good luck.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, rainmakers always move up.
Yeah.
The organization has to be growing. So let me just say, if you're in a company that's going nowhere, it's pretty hard to find a new leadership spot until somebody quits. If you're in a company that's growing, then opportunities always open up. They have to, because there's growth. So then what happens is like I said before, it's be smart. Bring your A game in. What does your A game mean? It means you got your thinking cap on. You're looking at stuff happening, you're learning, and figure out how to become a rainmaker. What can I do that's going to make a difference? That is going to get me recognized for the contribution that I think I'm making. And don't forget, in a professional way, to make sure your bosses know you're making that contribution. Doesn't get, staying silent is a guaranteed losing game.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's something I share with my leaders too, is that you need to it's awkward at times to kind of share your accolades or have it be known.
Is it?
Obviously not for you. But at
Okay.
times, it's like you don't want to give yourself the credit, but if no one's paying attention to you, generally no one really cares about you. Maybe you think they do, but they don't. And you have to make them care about what you've done. You have to make them. So I couldn't agree more with that and say yes um, to opportunities. Don't shy away from them.
Well, I care about both you a great deal.
Oh, thank
Oh,
God.
that's nice.
That's what I was
Yeah.
getting a little worried about.
And um, it's very hard. You never want to be conceited. You never want to over promote yourself. And you never want to take credit for what somebody else has done, their
Totally.
hard work and ideas. And you always want to be closely aligned with your supervisors and make sure you're doing what they expect of you and make sure they know what you're doing and accomplishing.
Lastly, I want to build off what Alyssa was saying. We're kind of dancing around this, talking about it too, but I know we're talking about, how to improve managers and kind of make them come into themselves, grow them, follow the culture. If we're taking a kind of a step down as well, and you're looking at even young managers or just managing in a space where you're trying to inspire maybe a junior person, you're trying to mold young talent, you're trying to bring people up. What's the best way to get them actively involved or not clip their wings? Or basically, you have someone coming up, you want to embolden them to improve in their position, maybe come more out of their shell. What would you say to a manager that's trying to bring the best out of his junior team or her junior team?
Yeah. So let me first say that this isn't like a game of darts. What I mean by that is you can't take your junior team of 6 people and throw a dart at them, and the one it hits is the one that's going to be your next great leader.
Right.
The truth is what we've been talking about is, bring your A game, be smart, you know, get the job done. Okay. Of those 6 people, it could be that only 3 of them really measure up. And the other ones might be great employees, but they might not be the ones that you think are going to make it to the next level. Okay. So you as a manager, more or less, you've got to choose the ones who you think are the ones that should be singled out for for that are going to make the next level. Um, and and of course, this is a virtuous circle. We just talked about if you're a junior employee and want to be recognized, you got to be the one that makes sure you stand out. You got to be the rainmaker. Anyway, you need to identify your rainmakers, okay? And then you need to take them under your wing and start teaching them how you make decisions. Because at the end of the day, we've already talked about it. Every seat is about decisions. Yes, everyone has a job to do, but as they do their job all day, they're actually making hundreds of decisions. What do I do with my time in the next 5 minutes? That's a decision. Do I answer this call or not answer this call? Which borrower do I call back first? It's all day long. And and I believe without a doubt the the people who make the most right decisions are the ones that is a foundational quality for moving up because it gets down it touches so many things. It touches time management. It touches how much you get done in a day. It touches how our borrower experience, uh it touches moving the project forward, moving what you've been told to do forward, making your entire department run properly because you're all involved in a process. We're running a factory in a mortgage production shop. Everyone's part of a factory. Everyone's got a job to do. Um, you see something that could be done better. Great way for you, Matt, in your position as a leader in this company, to uh, identify a next leader is do you have somebody there who's coming to you with great ideas all the time? That person should be mentored
Right.
more. I'm not saying leave the other ones in the dust.
No, completely understand what you're
Everyone
saying.
deserves
Completely understand what you mean.
everyone deserves a shot,
Yeah. Right.
but generally you can pretty quickly make a bet on who's going to be your next future leader. And by the way, Alyssa, Matt, I remember when the two of you had hair.
Yeah,
Okay.
feels like so long ago.
Yeah. No, you both actually have beautiful hair. But I do remember when you two were the rising stars that deserved to be a great deal of mentorship because you had so much promise. So I'm really proud to see the two of you as leaders at ABL because you guys have come so far, especially you, Matt. Oh,
I get
man.
emotional so easily.
I know I
Yeah.
can't handle
Oh
it.
my goodness.
It's recorded, so we
This-
can
this
rewatch.
is the dad
over
part.
and over. Yeah, this is the dad part.
Well, Alyssa was obviously pure talent.
I had to make a lot more noise.
You were like, who is this guy?
I had to wear
Yeah.
shirts like this to start
Yeah.
getting my
You
attention.
did.
Everyone carves their own path. That's the moral of the story.
That's a good answer to one of your questions. Is everyone does carve their own path?
I was looking for my little punchline
Yeah.
in there.
Well, I think this will be the last question, and then we'll, talk about like next steps. But if you were, this is hard. I can't with the glasses. So ridiculous and so dirty. The glasses, so many fingerprints.
It adds to the ambiance.
If you were founding this company today with the market as it is, what would you do differently, and what would you do the same?
Differently, I would raise enough capital to install the absolute best tech available. That's number one. Number two, I would raise capital because I would want to have money to hire the best people, and so that would be first of all, have the capital to hire the best people. Give out equity so everyone feels aligned with ownership. Invest in great tech, and there are a number of firms in the industry that have built very successful offshore teams, and we're mostly onshore, and I didn't enjoy a previous experience I had before ABL with offshore, and so I didn't go down that path with our company. I think if I were starting fresh, I would explore it because obviously some other companies in our industry have shown us that it can be done very effectively now. I'm not saying I would do it, but I would definitely, after I had the capital, the people, the tech, I would look into that.
Nice, solid ending.
This guy's pretty good.
I know. I feel like we're gonna have
Pretty
to have
good.
you on again because I feel like we're just. I can't speak when I'm recorded. Iceberg, tip of the iceberg.
No, yeah. I mean, I know that we obviously speak all the time, like us three, and have our own separate conversations. And like we mentioned before, you talk with so many people in the firm. But I really do find these conversations really invaluable. And just, seeing what you're putting out there, right? It's one thing to just say something, but to see it in action, something totally different. So, it reinforces the way that I go about handling my team, handling business between the company. I'm sure it does with you as well.
Totally.
Alyssa, was one of the big reasons that as I was coming up in asset management, my team has the structure that it does now. She came over, like you said before, and just identifying and nurturing opportunity and gave me structure when I was kind of just like a napkin in the wind. So, I've seen,
Not say you were a napkin.
I was like a
I
wet
thought
napkin.
it was more like blowing on the ground. Somebody had
It was like
Yeah.
a burnt napkin blowing around on the ground that got
Yeah.
ran over.
No.
Yeah.
And then to, where we are now, right? And that's all just reaching across the aisle
Yeah.
and communication and everyone, like you mentioned before, identifying an opportunity to make something better.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we really have here that's really special, and working in other places that I don't think is anything like it.
Yeah. Did I tell you that I was born in the front seat of a car?
No.
No.
That in our dinners and
is
lunches
a-
that hasn't
I
come
think
up
I've
yet.
heard
No.
this story, but I would like to hear it again. I think you told it in our new hire orientations.
Yeah, I
Like
might
the
have.
first
might
preliminary. You
have.
I
missed
wasn't
that one.
privy to that.
You weren't
one.
privy to that one.
No.
No, it's 1958, and my parents had my brothers. They were 3 and 2, and my dad, as you know, I said, is a doctor, and he was busy writing a research paper, and dad always worked. And the story goes, mom said, Teddy, it's time, and he said, 5 more minutes, which he always said. And finally, they got in the car, and halfway to the hospital, I was born in the front seat of a 57 Plymouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did.
Yeah. It was the first new car my parents had ever owned, and they had to sell it.
And you christened it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did your mom handle the 5 more minutes thing? She's like, I'm actively giving birth.
That was the way it was back then. She was a
Yeah.
wife of the 50s, and
Wow.
she tolerated my dad's idiosyncrasies. And so I love cars to this day. It's a thing with me, and it's all connected to me being born in the front seat of a car.
And how it's all connected as well, that you've always had your metaphorical foot on the gas.
Wow.
That too.
You see what's happening here?
I do.
You
I'm
see
like,
where
I
we
wonder, I wish my parents were still alive. I'll have to go talk to them in heaven and ask them if when I came out, I landed on the gas pedal.
It all makes sense.
Yeah. It's all connected now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
I think we did good.
I think we just.
I think we did
did
real.
good.
I learned something.
And
Did you?
that's
I learned. I felt good. I think I just felt rosy.
All
I
right.
think I just felt nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
I like
you guys
feeling
did a great
inspired.
job.
Wow. Thanks. Well, thanks everyone. Is there anything I have to do about? No. All right. Thanks.
Bye.
everyone. Bye.